everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Music Podcast. I am here with Eric Fraser. Eric is a San Jose native that has been playing in various bands for about 25 years, including Cielo Ceniza, a Latin band on Sony EMI label. Eric is now the guitarist for Corvus Lore. We are about to release a sophomore album, they tell me. Lucida, Corvus Lore releases the first single from the record, Boxing Ballerina, and it just won a Best Music Video Award. Romantic Traffic is now making its home on radio. Another single. We're going to find out all about Corvus Lore and when we might get that Lucida album. Eric, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, Scott, thank you for that introduction, and really excited to be here on your show today and to get to know your audience.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. It's great having you. Any kind of introducing a new band, I always kind of, the simple question everybody wants to know: what does Corvus Lore music sound like? What is it? So give us a little description on your take on what you're trying to do with Corvus Lore.
Yeah. So the four of us in the band, all from California. I was born in Southern California, likewise with our singer Ryan. And we my bass player and I have been in various different bands together for like the past 10 years or so. In fact, we started out doing tribute bands. And so first band about 10 or 12 years ago was a tribute to Foreigner. And then we moved on to a Foo Fighters tribute. And then after a certain point, we both just decided that really where our hearts were landing was to write original hard rock music together. And so the four of us all grew up on the classics like the Beatles and the Stones, and I personally have an affinity for Zeppelin and Yes, and I think we grew up in a really great time for classic rock and for guitar-based rock. And so I would describe Corvus Lore first and foremost as a guitar based band. That's how our songs are written and recorded. And and so we put out our first album, self-titled, about 3 years ago, and it was a direct to tape in a studio in Oakland called Tiny Telephone. And we put out I think it was about 6 or 7 songs on that EP. And and so when it came time for the next album, Lucida, we wanted to do something a bit bigger, try to take the songwriting up a notch. And so I would describe our music as definitely hard rock, melodic rock, and certainly standing on the shoulders of our heroes, like bands like the Cult and Stone Temple Pilots and the Black Crowes, and just things that we definitely love, absorb, and wear on our sleeves proudly.
Yeah, and you mentioned Stone Temple Pilots, and that's one of the bands that really came to mind when I was listening. And make no mistake, This is Corvus Lore music. It's not a Stone Temple Pilots tribute by any stretch, but it has those great qualities, really strong vocal, great melodies, harmonies too, harmony guitars, things like that. Just really, but it does come from that 70s school of rock, if you will. Your upbringing, a lot of music in the house when you were a kid?
Oh, wow. Actually, I'm really glad that you asked that. I've never been asked that question before. But so my brother first picked up playing bass, I want to say in the late 70s. so he was the first person to bring kind of an instrument into the house. And I shortly followed with wanting to have guitar lessons about a year or two after that. And so he and I would just, sit in our bedrooms and, drop the needle on a few albums and try to figure stuff out. But then ultimately, he and I were the ones that ended up in that Latin rock band Cielo Ceniza back in the early 2000s. And so we got to record an album together with a really great singer, and you did that for about a year and a half or so. And it was a really informative experience, as you can imagine, going to a label, being a part of Sony EMI, but just being in a different culture too, because it was recorded in Madrid, Spain. And learned a lot from that experience, and grateful that it happened. And so that's a little bit about my early background in terms of like music in the house. And
yeah, and that's it is really cool to have that experience of the Latin music, and because this is obviously the other end of that spectrum, kind of. Do you find that experience and being in that culture that deeply that it creeps into the music a little bit on the other end of the spectrum, into like a Corvus Lore, in the way you write or the way you play? Do you use some of those things?
Well, the the style of the band Cielo Ceniza, I would say, I mean, if we kind of roll the tape back and go back to the year 2000, Ricky Martin was kind of like a thing that was happening, but along with Carlos Santana, right? He did his album that was kind of like bringing in multiple singers like Rob Thomas, and a few others. And so our band definitely had a little bit of some of those elements and a little bit of No Doubt. And so in terms of like traditional Latin music, or at least what we were doing at that time, I'd say that my takeaways from it certainly had to do with percussion and the elements that can take rock music in other directions than just bar chords, crunching around on the guitar. I in fact, I would say with Corvus Lore, the page that we tore out of the Stone Temple Pilots book in terms of like even songwriting is just trying to think about how to layer guitars, how to approach things from chord progressions that may not be like of your style of like AC/DC or the Ramones, or things that are just super direct downstroke guitars. And so we definitely approach things traditionally also from like writing on an acoustic guitar first, and from a two guitar standpoint, seeing how we can kind of elevate and build songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I noticed that listening is there's that layering, there's that fullness, there's a lot of things going on. You have to listen a few times before you really hear everything, which is really, it's entertaining, it's exciting, it's not simple, but it comes across as accessible, which is a really hard thing to do. So yeah, I mean, I really appreciated that complexity within especially the guitars. That layering is really, really cool. Corvus
Yes,
Lore.
Scott, oh, sorry, we might have a little bit of a delay issue here. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't know.
But I like that word. I like that you framed it under the guise of accessible, and not that our band, tries to consciously say we're going to write a song this way because we know it's going to be a hit, or we know that it will appeal. But certainly, like trying to keep things within a time frame, 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, or writing songs that might have more than just kind of an A B structure. and maybe things that you would want to listen to more than once, right? I would say that if you could create songs that have earworms sticking in your head, especially the choruses, then I think you've probably achieved something that is worth putting out, at least in our band's opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so for sure. And when I say accessible too, I mean, you're doing complex things, and a lot of times, especially like in a progressive rock thing, you get a kind of a Tales from Topographic Oceans kind of thing that's not accessible. You have to like that, you know what I mean? It's not something that everybody can really latch onto. This is I felt that it was really it does have that earworm quality to it, and but it's also very interesting in that it's not completely direct. It's not, it's simple. There's a lot of things going on, but not too much to make
Mm,
it, for that specific crowd. I think this is something that everybody can listen to and enjoy. So that's very difficult to do. It's to appeal to a large audience like that with something as complex as you're doing here. It's great to hear. I love it. It's really, really great. Was there any?
yeah, and
Yeah.
I would say too that I would say too, maybe an element of that is our singer Ryan Jones, his approach to writing lyrics. Um, uh, you'll be hard pressed to find him write something that is, direct and completely literal. He writes in more metaphorical, which I think is another kind of key element to songwriting. It's like you'll never hear him say like, girl, I loved you and you did me wrong. It's never going to be anything as on the nose as that. And so yeah, and he has an ear for melody that I think is really impressive.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cool. I like that. It makes you listen. It draws you in. For me, it does. Rather than just telling me and being done, I kind of listen and I think about it and what is being said here. This is interesting. And which brings me to the name. I heard the name Corvus Lore. Don't really know what that's saying. Don't know really what that is. Where does the name come from? It's even the name, it has that interesting draw you in kind of thing. Corvus Lore, tell me about the name.
Uh, so when we did the first album, we were under a different band name, uh, and and the title of the album was Corvus Lore. In fact, we had an illustration on originally on the album that was it was a raven, and the raven had a set of hi-fi headphones on, and it was really kind of a very iconic style illustration. And the name Corvus Lore on the album came together from that image of the raven. And so Corvus is it's the genus species category for like a raven or a crow. That's hence where Corvus comes from. And lore is, as you probably already know, is more like the mystique or the folklore, the tale of. And so
Right.
um, once we had that for the album name, when it came time to like, okay, well, we have to make a decision on switching the band name, we thought, hey, that album title was pretty cool, and so I ended up designing the band's logo with that in mind. Definitely wanting to pull kind of a Hitchcock and Edgar Allan Poe style into how the lettering was done, and pulling in the raven into the design element as well. And so that's how it came about.
That's very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, and I love that logo. Fantastic. Go to corvuslore.com for everybody out there. Take a look at that. It's pretty great. Really, I think it fits the band too. I think it fits the sound and image, sound and vision thing really working for you here.
Oh
Um,
wow, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. The writing process for you guys. Do you get in a room and shoot it all down together? Does one person bring it in? How's it work for you guys?
Um, it's evolving. So I would say the first album primarily it was our singer Ryan bringing in like the semblance of a song, and it might be just like, hey, I've got a chorus together, and like, what else can we build around this? And so between my bass player and myself, we would think of writing A sections, B sections, bridges, ways to take maybe the song in a couple of different directions. But for Lucida, which is the second album, I would say that it's still primarily Ryan coming in with some chord structures and vocal melodies and sometimes scratch lyrics. So that's still, I would say, is like kind of the through point. But like, take a song like Boxing Ballerina. That I had written parts of it because it's just exploring with open G tuning. Do you play guitar, Scott?
No, no.
Oh, okay. Well, I would, open G, just I would think of, the Stones, the Black Crowes, Jimmy Page. Definitely there's a lot of fruit to be pulled from that particular tuning. And so I just had that opening riff idea and sent it to Ryan, and then like by the next week he already had the rest of that excellent chorus or sketched out, and the rest of the band kind of filled in the gaps. But in terms of writing, like we get together at our drummer's rehearsal space in his house, and we hammer it out together. And then once we hammer it out, we gig the thing and see how well did it, work with the audience in the live setting. And then once those pieces all fall together, we pull it into the studio. And yeah, that's primarily how the songs are brought to the table these days.
Nice, nice. It's great to have that collaboration. I find that, a lot of bands don't have that, where, everybody can get together peacefully and hash some things out. Um,
No doubt.
Boxing Ballerina has won a music video award, Poppy Jasper International Film Festival, Best Music
Mhm.
Video. That would maybe make me think that you enjoy making videos. And that's another thing. I hear a lot of bands, it's just a big pain in the ass. But this is working well for you. What do you think about making videos? Do you see yourself making a lot more of them?
Yeah, so Boxing Ballerina was the very first video that our band went into. First album we didn't do any real video support. So with a title like Boxing Ballerina and the way the lyrical content goes, you could do just like a straight up band performance, right? Go on to like a big sound stage and just record the band churning out the song. But really, it was our lyricist and singer thinking of ways to kind of pull that image together. So we sat down and started writing out a shot list and a general storyline. And then I went out hunting for boxing rings in the kind of the San Jose, California area, and found one. And gosh, they were just completely welcoming to the idea of doing a music video inside of their establishment, and said, if you want to put drums or your guitar amps inside of the boxing ring, go for it. And then we enlisted the services of director Mike Sloat, who also did Romantic Traffic, and said, hey, we don't know how big this boxing ring is. We think we can fit everything in there. And, we have a loose storyline of, there being some judges near the boxing ring and bringing in different casts of characters to kind of duke it out. And so he, with that in mind, I believe, tried to take almost kind of like a Raging Bull kind of feel to it. And so what we ended up with, we were just ecstatic about. That was I think it was about a 7 hour a day shoot. And Mike is just, he's the go-to guy in the Bay Area for rock videos. He's worked with Exodus, and a number of other notable bands, but he's just super easy to work with and can take some loose ideas and really kind of crystallize them and pull them into a beautiful, cohesive production. And that's what he delivered.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, winning that award and everything, it's really cool. That's first video for you guys too. It's pretty great. Yeah, when are we gonna see Lucida? I don't have a release date here. I'm excited to hear that it's coming. When can we expect it?
Mm-hmm. We are so we're in the midst of doing the promotion for Romantic Traffic. That's the second video, and so we'll promote that single, our second single, for a bit, and then I think the way we're looking at it right now is it makes a lot of sense to release things as we have the ability to support them on the road, support them through gigs, trying to do interviews like we're doing today to get the word out, hopefully get some more radio play. And then as we keep pushing Boxing, Ballerina, and Romantic Traffic, then maybe we can think about a third single. In fact, with the 9 songs that are on the record, there's at least a few others that I would have in mind for doing a single. So I think that's really what the question right now is, like, do we do a third single, produce a video behind it, or just plan to release the full album in probably early 2023? So I think both possibilities are on the table.
Excellent. Yeah. And I think the climate today is single based and video based. So yeah, I'm excited to hear another single and then get the album. Personally, I'm getting used to that. As an old school guy, I love getting the full record and indulging. But now I kind of like the waiting game and getting excited about each track. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I look.
Yeah, I agree with you, and you mentioned like the notion of do bands you know toil and like doing videos, and is it arduous, and is it more effort than it's worth? But I would say of the two that we produced, hopefully they showed maybe a couple different sides of the band in terms of either the songs themselves or just how the videos are created. The Romantic Traffic video is not shot in black and white, right? It's there's a little bit more of a storyline that's happening, and we really we invited some actors to be a part of it, and yeah, I was just really happy with the way that video turned out.
Yeah, yeah, and it is a lot different. Still very effective, and it plays to the song, which is great for sure. All right, do we get a tour on this record? Sometime, I know that's a big undertaking these days, and do you see yourself supporting this on the road?
We do, and the goal for the band now is to definitely get to locations that are outside of the San Francisco Bay Area first and foremost. So we've done a couple shows. The most recent one was opening up for Richie Kotzen down in Los Angeles a couple months back. But I would love to get Corvus Lore, into the Vegas area up north, possibly into Oregon and Washington, and really try to stitch together maybe some run of like 2-3 days, and just see how it's picking up. Hopefully get some more radio play, and then kind of plan it out from there.
Yeah, Yeah, and it's exciting. I love, getting in on the ground floor kind of thing, and watching a band like yours grow. It's really cool because, I mean, there's obviously quality here. There's obviously a lot of talent. To see it grow and come together is a great thing. Doing it the old-fashioned way too. It's not an overnight thing, making a band work and getting your music out there. So I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to do my best to get it out to the ears of and the eyes of people here. And I hope to see you on the road, maybe in Chicago, one of these days.
Scott, that would be boy, that would be an excellent goal for our band. And I want to thank you for your time today and for the questions. And I really hope that you have a great one.
You too. Thank you so much, Eric. For more info and all things Corvus Lore, please go visit Eric and the boys at corvuslore.com, and I'll have a link in the description. Eric, I appreciate you, bud.
Okay, be well. I'll
All
talk to you
right.
soon.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.